Hello again, my little conscripts, and welcome to another Mordian Glory video. In today's episode, we shall be looking at how you can build your beginner mech guard army, starting at 500 points and working all the way up to 2,000 points. The idea behind this video is to help you with your guard hobby journey, because starting off at 2,000 points can definitely be a bit intimidating, especially if you're someone who is brand new to the guard. Whether you're someone who's brand new to 40k in general and you've picked guard as your first faction, or you're a veteran coming over from another faction, guard is a bit of a big faction. We've got lots of data sheets, lots of units to pick from, and we also tend to need a lot of models, and knowing which models are good and which models will work together well can really help you make the right choices on that hobby journey. So hopefully this video will be kind of helpful. And so with all of that said, let's not mess around any further. Let's mount up, roll out, and drive right into this thing. Attention guardsmen, the Mordian Glory channel is now officially sponsored by Wargames Atlantic. Wargames Atlantic sells fantastic multi-part plastic kits which are perfect for expanding and augmenting your guard army. Not only do you get a very generous amount of models for a very impressive price point, but also they have a bulk buy discount. The more you buy, the bigger you save. And what's even cooler is they've got loads of different designs to choose from. You've got your Bulldogs, which could count as Praetorians. You've got your Legrognards, which could count as Mordians, Kriegers, or Vestorians. But if you're looking for something a little bit more modern sci-fi, maybe you're a big Aliens fan, then check out their Ura models, which could count as Cadians or Colonial Marines. So if you like what you see, then please click the affiliate link down in the description below. It's a great way of getting yourself some new models and supporting the channel at the same time. A huge thank you to Wargames Atlantic for sponsoring the channel, and now let's get back to the video. Now first things first, I bet some of you are curious what website I use to build my army list. It's called New Recruit. It's totally free and it is my personal go-to choice for building army lists in Warhammer 40k and in other game systems as well. And let me make something abundantly clear. I am not sponsored by New Recruit to make this video. They have no idea I'm going to make it, and they haven't given me any money to give them the shout out. This is just a tool that I use. I really like it. I think it's really good, and so I'm happy to recommend it to other players. Truth be told, I did used to use the GW app for all of my lists, but then they kept paywalling stuff, and so I said, well, I don't want to have to buy a codex just to be able to play around with some army lists. I just want to be able to play around and have ideas for new armies and factions and stuff. And so that's why I ended up going over to New Recruit, because you have every single army for Warhammer 40k available in this app, and also you've got them for other game systems as well. But with that said, let's get into the video proper, beginning with our 500 point list. Now, funnily enough, this was actually the hardest of all of the lists to make, because it's quite hard getting what you need into a 1,000 point army, and you do have to make some difficult decisions. In the end, I decided to focus on two things: making sure that I had damage output and making sure that I had enough other units to screen and do actions. Strangely enough, this list isn't all that mechanized, but don't worry, all of the units that we use in this list will be carried forward into the next lists. In fact, it's worth mentioning that at no point are any of the units I'm going to suggest in these lists, from 500 to 1,000 to 1,500 points to 2,000 points, are going to be wasted. We're not going to put in a Taurox for one list and then never see it again in another list. Every single unit that we start off with at 500 points is going to make it into our final 2,000 point list. And likewise, we're not going to have any units that get left by the wayside. Now, the first thing that we need to define is which detachment we are taking. And I have gone with a combined arms detachment. And that is the detachment we are going to be sticking with throughout this entire video. It's a very powerful detachment, and it's pretty much the go-to standard beginner detachment for the Imperial Guard in 10th edition. Our first unit in this army is a Leman Russ Commander. This is a pricey boy at 500 points, and I was a little hesitant to include him, but at the end of the day, we need a damage dealer, and we also need a character. because every list needs to have a character in it. And so I figured rather than taking a Castellan and like another Leman Russ, and then the Leman Russ wouldn't have orders, I thought, why not cover two problems with one solution? So we went for a Leman Russ commander, and I gave him a Hunter Killer Missile, Executioner Plasma Cannon, Las Cannon, 2 Plasma Cannons, and Heavy Stubber. Now I went for the Executioner because you're unlikely to be facing any seriously heavy vehicles at 500 points. But even if you do, between the Executioner and the Las Cannon and the Plasma Cannons and the fact that you're going to have lethal hits in this detachment, the Leman Russ commander with all of these Plasma Cannons should be able to get the job done. However, if you are someone who prefers to have multi-melters over Plasma Cannons, I am Team Plasma Cannon. I think they are the better choice, but I know a lot of people do prefer dem multi-melters, then that is a totally valid option. Supporting our Leman Russ, we have gone for 3 units of Catachan Jungle Fighters. Each one of these Catachan Jungle Fighters comes with a Voxcaster, and we've got 2 Flamers in there as well. And we've also got the Sergeant, who's just got a las pistol. There are a number of reasons we've gone for these 3 units. Firstly, we want to make sure that we have got plenty of infantry that can screen our tank. We don't want someone coming in with a unit of Death Company or Khorne Berserkers or something else that's particularly choppy, and they can just run straight up to our tank, chop it up in close combat, and then we lose, well, half of our list in one go, and also it means that we lose our main source of damage. So by taking these infantry squads, we've got 30 infantry at 500 points, which is a pretty respectable amount. Now, they're probably going to die, but if these guys are dying, it means the tank is probably thriving. So some of you may die, but it is a sacrifice I'm willing to make. In addition to screening, it gives us fantastic primary objective play because each one of these squads can put 20 OC onto an objective, and it gives us some cheap action monkeys as well. Finally, we have the Armored Sentinel. Now, I've equipped this guy with the Hunter Killer Missile, Sentinel Chainsaw, and Las Cannon, although you could swap the Las Cannon out for a Plasma Cannon if you wanted to, because it kind of falls under the same idea as taking Plasma Cannons and stuff over here. I went for the Las Cannon because I just quite like Las Cannons. Also, Las Cannon, Hunter Killer Missile, Las Cannon, and Hunter Killer Missile means that if we do end up encountering something like a Land Raider at 500 points, which can happen, we should have enough anti-tank there to be able to do a big amount of damage to it in one go. Now, full disclosure here, the Armored Sentinel isn't going to make it into the final iteration of our list. And I know what some of you are going to say, but Mordian, you said every unit was going to make it through. You lied to us. You're a low-down, dirty deceiver. Hang on. I've taken it as an Armored Sentinel at 500 points because I had a few points left over. But in the future, we will be taking this Sentinel as a Scout Sentinel. Now, the good news about the current Sentinel kit that GW makes is that it is modular. So you can swap between a Scout Sentinel and an Armored Sentinel very, very easily. And truth be told, even if you end up gluing all the parts together and you don't do the whole modular swapping out thing, no one really knows the difference between a Scout Sentinel and Armored Sentinel, and most people just use the models interchangeably. Bringing all of this together, we have got a list with 2 pieces of armor in it, and we've got 30 infantry. We've got firepower, and we've also got objective power, both primary and secondary. Also, one thing I hadn't mentioned up until this point, but we have good maneuverability as well, because these Catachan Jungle Fighters can scout 6 inches at the beginning of the game. But now that we've got our first 500 points all sorted out, it's time to go on to the next level, to build up from here to 1,000 points. And arguably, 1,000 points is the first proper sized game of Warhammer 40k. 500 points tends to be played at the very beginning of your 40k journey. You're just feeling things out. But 1,000 points is really the starting point and where the game starts to get good. With that in mind, and understanding that we're now going to be playing on the bigger board size, the full size board, I have focused my 1,000 point list on essentially mechanizing the 500 point list, because the 500 point list, we couldn't get all the vehicles and infantry and armor that we needed. So we focused on having a big tank and some infantry, but now we want to get that feel, that mech feel that we're aiming for with this list. The first part of that process is getting some more heavy armor in the force. And I've gone for 2 Leman Russ Vanquishers. This means we have 3 Leman Russes at 1,000 points. And that is chef's kiss. 3 Leman Russes at this level is a lot of heavy armor for your opponent to deal with. I have been playing this game for a long time, and my go-to in any 1,000 point list is always to make sure I have 3 Leman Russes. You might think 2 is enough. It's not. You want 3. 3 is a massive dilemma for your opponent. They're probably not going to be bringing enough anti-tank to deal with them, and you are going to be able to punish them for that greatly. And this is why we went for Grand Strategist, because we've got 1, 2, 3 tanks, so we need our tank commander to be able to do 3 orders. On top of our Vanquishers, we've also got 3 Chimeras. Yes, 3 dedicated transports for our Catachan jungle fighters. This is going to keep them safe, it's going to bring even more firepower into the list, and it's going to bring even more maneuverability into the list, because Chimeras move faster than Catachans, and don't forget, when your Catachan jungle fighters start the game embarked in a transport, that scout move transfers onto the transport as well. So that means that those Chimeras can scout 6 inches. You will notice that our Armored Sentinel has gone. Don't worry, he will be coming back in just a moment as we head over to the 1,500 point list. Now, truth be told, not many people play at 1,500 points. You tend to find that players learn at 500 points, build up to 1,000 points, get a few quote-unquote proper games under their belt, and then they push for the burn and get straight up to 2,000 points. However, I personally think that 1,500 points is a nice middle ground, and you don't have to wait for the full 2,000 points to get some quite large games of 40k going. So at 1,500 points, we have gone for another Leman Russ commander, and we have equipped him with an execution plasma cannon, las cannon, 2 plasma cannons, and a heavy stubber. So exactly the same as the other tank commander. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Furthermore, I've fleshed the infantry corps out to 5 squads of Catachan jungle fighters, and we've got 4 Chimeras for them. Now that does mean that one of the squads is going to have to foot slog it around, but that's alright. That 10-man unit can just sit on the home objective and hold it. Quick side note here, strictly speaking, this 5th squad of Catachan jungle fighters should probably be a unit of Cadians, because they're better at doing backfield home objective work, because they've got sticky. It means that once you take control of the objective, it stays under your control even if the unit moves off it until your opponent basically captures it. So what you can do with the Cadians is sticky the objective at the beginning of the game and then move off, and it's more than likely going to stay under your control. However, Cadians have got different loadouts to Catachans, and so bearing in mind that we're trying to make sure that every unit we include in these lists can make it from one step to the other and make it to the final list, I decided to go with the Catachan jungle fighters and accept that very small inefficiency in the army. Of course, if you're planning on getting more than the units that we talk about today, maybe you end up expanding your infantry corps in many different directions, and you end up playing at 1,500 points, then consider the possibility of swapping this 5th unit of Catachans out for a unit of Cadians. But for now, let's not complicate the matters. These are the units we've taken, and these are units that I recommend if you're building towards the final 2,000 point army following the process that we're laying out. We've also got a Scout Sentinel in the list, and this is to help with our secondary objectives. You see, sometimes you get an objective like Area Denial, or Engage on all fronts, or Establish Locus, and you get that turn 1, and you think, oh, I don't really want to move a Chimera full of infantry to do that, because that's like a 150 point unit at time of recording, and that's like 10% of my army if it dies. Because it moves out and then inevitably the opponent's going to clap back and kill it, right? Taking a Scout Sentinel allows us to do that job for nearly a third of the cost. So it's a nice little sacrificial unit that is good at secondary game. I have noticed one mistake. At the moment, I haven't given this the right weapons, so I'll just do that now. It's a good way to show off how new recruit works as well, I suppose. Let's go with the Hunter Killer Missile, Sentinel Chainsaw, and go with my personal favourite, the Las Cannon. In total, this gives us, in our list, 4 main battle tanks with the 2 tank commanders and the 2 vanquishers, 4 mechanized infantry squads, our armored fist, and we've also got a couple of support units here with the Scout Sentinel and the Kachan Jungle Fighters. But let us get to the final stage. Let us get to 2,000 points. Taking this list from 1,500 to 2,000 points is all about covering tactical gaps. Up until this point, we've had to make some sacrifices because we can't get everything that we want in the list until we get to 2,000 points. It's also about fleshing out some of the existing components in the army, making sure that our infantry is fully mechanized and we've got all of the big tanks that we want. To this end, we have added in a Cadian Castellan and 2 artillery teams with heavy mortars. These are the units that are going to sit on our home objective, our backfield objective, and most importantly, they are going to give us a very valuable tool in our toolbox, indirect fire. Now, in this army, indirect fire is not a main damage dealer. It's very much a harassment fire idea. You want to use these 2 heavy mortars to go after some small 5-man squads that your opponent is trying to hide out of line of sight, maybe doing actions or on objectives. By using these to take out those small game pieces, it forces your opponent to use bigger game pieces to try and achieve his aims. Think about it this way. At 500 points, we didn't want our tank commander to be doing actions. That's why we put those 10-man Kachan squads in. Well, that philosophy still applies at 2,000 points, but now we're trying to do it to our opponents. We want to take their cheap units out so they have to use big units for jobs that big units don't want to be doing. And just to be clear, we've gone for the Cadian Castellan because he can do 2 orders, and we've got 2 artillery teams, so that equation just makes sense. Moving on, we have rounded out our secondary game capability with a single commissar. Now, the role of the commissar is to go in reserve pretty much every single game, and if we draw something like behind enemy lines for 30 points, we've got a unit that can go and do that from turn 3. We've also rounded out the tank corps by getting an extra vanquisher. We now have got 3 vanquishers and we have got 2 Rus commanders, 1 with Grand Strategist, giving us 5 tanks, 5 orders, and a hell of a lot of firepower. And last but certainly not least, here we have the 5th Chimera, allowing us to fully mechanize all 5 of our Kachan Jungle Fighters. And with those units added, we really have a list that doesn't have any gaps in capability. It can do everything that we want. We've got damage dealers with those 5 tanks. We've got primary game and screening and maneuverability with those scouting chimeras. And we've got indirect fire for messing with our opponent's plans. And we've got a couple of cheap units to do the secondaries. That just about covers everything in this episode. But before you rush off, I do want to mention a couple of quick things. I have got 2 videos which are very closely related to this one. I've got a video where I go through the 2,000 point army in excruciating detail, explaining why everything has been put into the list and how I intend to use it in a competitive setting. And I've also been to a tournament running this 2,000 point list, and I actually went undefeated at the tournament, and it was a bit of a shark tank as well. So if you get to the end of this video and you want to put together this 2,000 point army and you want a bit more information, then please check out the links we've got down in the description below. I'll make sure there's a link to both of those videos. You might find them helpful. Okay, now that really does cover everything. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know what you think down in the comment section below. And don't forget to go ahead and like this video to help boost it with the YouTube algorithm. And if you want to see more content like this, because if this video does well, I'll make more of these beginner army lists and how to build them up from 500 to 1,000 points. If you want to see that, then make sure you subscribe to never miss an episode. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian glory hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing, truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full-time without the incredible and generous support of my members, so thank you guys so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a heartfelt thank you to Redfield, 32, Jurgens, Miasma, Try Again, Bragg, RJ, Scorpion, Bonbon Vert, Lord Pryor, Nicholas Walsh, John Stubbs, Guardian, Varney, Sword, Fish Trombone, Picklock the Forged. Seriously guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your support is incredible and it makes a huge difference. Thank you so much. That's all for now. Hope you've all enjoyed today's video, and of course, as always, see you guys next time.